And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another segment, another episode rather of I Love Seniors. And I'm Richard Aguila, and it's a pleasure to be with you this evening. And I want to welcome all of our viewers. We are based in Las Vegas, but we are so fortunate to have viewership from really all over the world. Domestically, Los Angeles, New York, San Francisco. We have Tampa, Florida. We have New York. We even have Oregon now. All these wonderful, and Texas. So let's not forget Texas. So we have a lot of not only Filipinos, but people from all walks of life, all nationalities tuning into the show. And as always, I want to thank our incredible sponsor, which is Aetna Medicare Solutions, and they help to bring all over the United States the very, very best quality health care to our senior population, of course. And so I'm very, very happy to have them be as the main sponsor of the show. So we want to thank Aetna. And, we have a very, very awesome show. I'm so excited right now. To bring you this episode. And what we're going to do is we are going to talk about retiring in the Philippines. And this is a question that has, people ask me about this all the time because I'm always dealing with retirees. And for some reason they, and I love all of you that think, hey, I'm some kind of expert on that subject. Thank you so much. I do what I can, but I'm not an expert. But I am going to bring you a couple people that are. And some of these experiences I've had myself. And I think you see her on the screen right now. I have a co-host tonight. Thank goodness, because nobody wants to look at just me all the time. Miss Suzette Carlos of Smart Space Interiors is with me. Hi, Suzette. How are you?
Hello, hi Richard. How are you? Nice
I'm
to see you once again.
great
It's
to
good.
see you. Great to see you. And real quick, where are you in the Philippines right now? Can you enlighten us?
Actually, I'm in Marikina right now. Marikina, Metro Manila. And first, of course, I'd like to greet our kababayan. Good morning from the Philippines. I know it's evening in your place.
That's right. That's right.
Magandang umaga sa inyo sa ating
Yeah.
mga forever young na kababayan in Las Vegas.
That's right.
But I hope you're all doing well.
And they are
Doing
forever
well.
young because you know what keeps them young? The slot machines at the casino. That's what keeps them
Oh
young.
yeah, I
Okay?
understand. Yes, I know that
Yes.
for a fact.
Yes, because
They do keep you young.
right, because you know what? It's a running joke, but it's actually true. When they're at home, all the aches and
They,
pains,
yes, they
and
feel it.
my back hurts and all that kind of stuff. And then you take them to the casino and suddenly
And then they can walk.
they can
They
walk.
can
What a
run.
miracle.
They can, yeah. They feel the energy.
I know, I know.
I
Anyway,
think it has that vibe.
it's true.
You
It's
feel
true.
like,
It's true.
yes,
But I want to go
kind
over
of
one.
energizer.
Yeah, I want to go over one really, really important thing. I want to go over how does, and then I'll let you guys go into our very, very important subject. How does healthcare work in the Philippines? I know you and I have had many conversations about that. When you are on Medicare, and I've told you a little bit about how the U.S. system works. When you're on Medicare, and you also have a Medicare Advantage plan, okay, that goes along. Medicare pays 80%, and the Medicare Advantage plans pay the other 20%. So now you have complete health care, which is subsidized by our U.S. government. But when you're in the Philippines, what happens? Are you covered? Are you not covered? What is, that's always a question. And the answer to this is it actually works it's very simple. So for those viewers that have these two things, and you can always call me, I'll have my information later on. If you have Medicare and Medicare Advantage, here's how it works in the Philippines. Let's just say you are in your home province of Albay, right? You're in Albay, you're vacationing, and something happens, you break your leg, okay? And you end up at the local hospital there, and it's an emergency, okay? The key word is emergency, okay? And whether you break your leg or something more serious happens, the benefit that you have in the United States works exactly like this. You will be 100% reimbursed for any medical costs that that are that are under the emergency, you know, the emergency situation. So basically, it's not one of those things that, well, my family doctor will refer me to, will tell me to go to the hospital and I'm going to go be admitted the regular way, non-emergency. That they will not reimburse. But if you go through the emergency room, and of course you have to pay first, okay? Magbabayad muna kayo, right? As long as you report it that day, or a relative does, and lets the health plan know. And all of these health plans here in the United States, Medicare Advantage plans, have a number that you can call collect. Okay? So whatever, cell phone, whatever kind of phone you can find, you can actually contact the health plan 24 hours a day, let them know where you are in the world, and that can be the Philippines, of course. Report what happened. They will verify that your loved one is in the hospital, okay? And then they will give you instructions on what to do. Medical records, doctor's notes, right down to what, how much did you spend in pesos? Okay? It's that detailed. And when you get back to the United States, they will reimburse you normally within 30 working days. Not bad. I myself experienced this. So for those of you worried about your health care, yes, there's no direct way that you can get covered. There just isn't. Because, the systems in the United States and the ones in the Philippines are totally different. But if you incur an emergency and you have Medicare and Medicare Advantage, then you can be 100% reimbursed. It doesn't matter whether that is $1,000 or $50,000 US dollars. You will get reimbursed. Most plans, they don't have a limit. Okay, so please keep that in mind. That's very, very important. Which goes along with our topic today. Healthcare, besides healthcare, I'm asked the question all the time. Like, and most of my clients are probably 75 to 80% of my clients are Filipino. Okay? And they always tell me, okay, I'm going to go back home to the Philippines. I'm planning to stay there, but I'm not retired yet. And they always tell me these stories about, how they plan to buy property or they bought a property and now, and they're not quite retired yet and something happens and they make the wrong decision and they bought the wrong thing. And, I've even had, situations where people really didn't understand, I guess a very popular thing in the Philippines, and I've participated in this, is you can take 2 or 3 years to make a down payment on something before you actually take possession of it, right? The problem is that, once these, and they're very good at what they do. The sales professionals are very good at what they do because obviously they've sold you something. But after that, they disappear. Somehow, I can't find that person anymore after, I've paid all this money. So it's very, very important. This show is very, very important, and I appreciate, Suzette being here as my co-host tonight. We have a very, very special guest. Now, I'm gonna have you guys talk about yourselves for a little bit, and then we'll go into the main topic. Suzette, you and I have known each other for many, many years, many years, and since, and I know you're a very big star in the film. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. You're a very big star. You're a very big star to me. Very big star to me. Suzette.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
You're also the Martin Rivera of Las Vegas for us.
Thank you. Oh my gosh, Martin, I apologize for that. No, he's no. Anyway, Suzette, has over 20 plus years of really helping people to not only, make great decisions about the properties that they are buying, but but she has great expertise on how to design it in such a way to where if you want something, that might be revenue generating for
Yes, thank you
you
for
while
this
you're
for
not retired
buyers.
yet. She's been a great resource for that. And so I'm going to have you talk a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to go into our very, very special guest tonight. So please go ahead, Suzette.
Hi, as I said, good morning to everybody. And I've been here on the show. I've been on air also to talk to you already. I've been helping people design their house, transform their house into something to learn from or stay in. I've been hearing a lot of stories, especially from our clients abroad, who purchased investments in the Philippines and ended with, being uh, after paying a lot of money, their renovations is not due. So basically, I've done a lot of projects from as far as Tagaytay, Manila, Makati, and even Caesar Rizal. So I've done a lot of uh, projects for people, and I've turned them something that they really comfortable to them, a place comfortable enough for them to stay, or something that they've learned from as a rental, vacation rental. So we started actually with me helping my husband. We've been doing architectural visualization for real estate companies, and I've studied interior design for the purpose of helping my husband with CGI design group. But then eventually, when I started doing houses, helping my friends renovate their places, it just went on. Basically, a word of mouth. Since then, I set up Face Smart Interiors, which as those they help people make their houses up.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I had the good fortune of you taking care of my personal property, and thanks to you, and your guidance, because I didn't have any guidance before you came along. It's now revenue generating, thank goodness, and I'm one of those in this boat. I'm not young, but I'm not old either, so I'm kind of in the middle right now. So,
And I think
and
it's really important that
yeah,
people like you would find somebody trustworthy enough to actually fulfill the promises that this money that we invest in real estate and in renovation, these are
yes.
very hard earned money. So it's really important that they would be able to connect to people whom they can trust.
Absolutely. That's very, very important. And speaking of trust, our very special guest tonight is the CEO and founder of ProPod Business Consultancy, Mr. Peter Odata. Peter, welcome to the show, my friend. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Richard. It's been a pleasure to be here with you.
Oh, the pleasure's
And
ours. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah, and actually, I've been doing this. I was when I got invited by a friend, the husband of Zed. I thought that it would be a good opportunity again to go back and talk to our retirees, our
Yes.
Filipinos there. I've lived in the States for 4 years, and my mom was with me from way back. We're talking about like 2000s, and
Yeah, yeah.
we've lived there for 4 years. And what one thing that I noticed when my mom was there was because it's cold in Virginia,
Oh,
that
yes.
every now
Oh, my goodness. Yes.
yes, yes, and every now and then she would say she has like back pains, knee pains, and so many pains. And
Yes.
so when I decided to go back to the Philippines, that's when I started seeing the difference, because probably because it's a tropical country, and all those pains were gone, and she started getting stronger. She gets to eat the food that she wanted,
You're right.
and of course, being in the real estate for more than 36 years, I've done basically 15 years of that was doing international selling. I was talking to
Amazing.
OFWs,
Yes.
I was talking to retirees. I dealt with so many Filipinos wanting to go back in the Philippines. And sometimes I find it a bit strange that so many Filipinos here were dreaming like, one day I want to go to America and live in America. But once they start living there for 10, 15 years, the
They
dream
were going
changes.
back.
Then
You're
they
right.
think of
They
going
were
back and
Yes.
hoping
going
that
back
when
to the
they get to retire, then they
Yes.
would have a chance to live like the way they used to live in the past.
You're right.
So,
Yes.
yeah. many of them were like aspiring to go back there, go back here. But of course, it's a big decision, and I understand that. I
Yeah.
mean, working in the States or any parts of the world is totally different from working here. So yeah,
It
so
really is. It really is, Peter. And the perspective that you have, my friend, especially, oh my gosh, Virginia. I've been there. It's cold. Oh my gosh. You were in Virginia for 4 years?
yes, yes,
You're a
I
brave
was.
man. You're a brave man. Oh my gosh. So you shoveled snow. You shoveled snow and you
I
did.
did.
Oh
I
my
did,
goodness.
and I have
Wow.
to carry my like tons of like jackets and
Yes.
inner shirts, and you have to do that
Yes.
every day, and parang
Yeah.
pinaparusahan mo sarili mo araw-araw.
You're right because those Filipinos that live in Virginia, New York, Boston, those places, that's not the land of like golden streets and milk and honey. That's the land of snow and sleet, and you're free. And you better
And
have
cold.
three jackets on at the same time because you're gonna freeze to death. And gloves, right? You have to wear the gloves and everything. And
And when it gets too cold,
yeah,
it gets lonely,
it
and
does.
people
It
even go
does.
out,
You're right.
and we
Yeah,
see very few people smiling.
right. I
They just want
know. I
to
know.
rush and go back home.
Peter, with I'm so happy to have the both of you on. Between the two of you, you have over 60 years, over 60 years of combined experience in helping Filipinos achieve, the goal basically. And so, Peter, as you know, the number one problem that our balikbayans, OFWs, okay, because they call us balikbayans, but seriously, I think anybody who's out of the Philippines who's working is an OFW. That's what it is to me. You are what you're doing here. You're sending money back home, right? You're
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. OFW tayo lahat, right?
Yeah.
So the number one thing, and this hurts me to hear this, is many of let's just say most of the people I hear this from are not in their 50s. They're not even 60, but they're kind of like 65. They're 64, 65, right? Because they have no time. They have no time to go to the Philippines, and once they do go to the Philippines, they're at that age already. And then, do you know the most common story they give me, and you'll relate to this very well. The most common story they give me of how they actually procured their property, or in most cases a condominium, is the mall, either
The
the
mall.
Mega
Yeah.
Mall or Robinson's, or in Ortigas or some mall, right? And somebody
The agent
handed them a beautiful looking flyer. Okay, handed them this flyer, took them to a showroom, and then from there, that's how it happened. And then a few years down the line, they don't even know what
know
they
what to do with
bought.
it.
They have no clue when it comes down to turning over the property, those type of things. They don't even know what to do because there's no one to guide them. And this is really the premise of this show. And this is not the first time you guys will be on this show. You guys will be back because this is a topic that needs more exposure. Okay, but I really want to be the one to kind of to bring this out. It's I'm very fortunate to have the responsibility in the senior community here, especially here in Las Vegas, and you're going to get a lot of retirees now that are going home. It opened up February, first week of February. It's open, right? No more quarantine, diba? No more, right?
I think we're in a level 1 yet.
Level one. So
Learn
Peter,
level 1 na tayo.
so
So we're actually starting
wow.
to open up.
Yeah. So Peter, you know what? The first topic is okay, basically, and this is your cup of tea. This is your forte. The advantages of real estate investment in the Philippines versus savings in the bank for our kababayans in the U.S. Let's talk about that. What are the pros and cons, and what would you recommend? Yeah.
One thing that I noticed, and from my understanding, most of the retirees, they only start saving. They only start preparing at the age of 40 to 60. And that's quite a short time to prepare
It
for a
is.
really good retirement plan.
It
Okay,
is.
now the thing there is that they start panicking, start looking for properties because the original plan is to go back to the Philippines.
Right. Exactly. Right.
Right. And then the first thing that gets into their head basically is to have an investment in the Philippines.
Right.
Either you buy a pre-selling condominium or you buy a property. If you buy a pre-selling condominium, well, dapat klaro kung ano yung purpose mo. If
You're
you
right.
are going back to the Philippines in 5 years, then it's very logical for you to start planning. But if you're looking at 15 years or 20 years, then you look at an investment that would give you recurring income. All right.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
recurring income may be in the form of condominiums at pre-selling, where you really get to enjoy the full appreciation of the property, because when it's under construction, it keeps increasing every year. So more or less,
Right.
you get to enjoy at least 40%
Yes.
return, assuming that you have cash money to pay for the remaining balance. But if you intend to borrow that money in Philippine bank, that means to say that
Right.
you have to start paying the interest. Probably the rental income would just be good enough to pay for the
Yes.
interest.
You know,
That
in
consider.
Peter, in my particular case, I think it was because I had, Suzette's, guidance, and people like her, in my particular case. So what happened to me was, I was exactly that person that you're talking about, right? I'm about 15 years out. I'm 50 years old now. Okay, I know I look 25. I know, but I am 50. So hey,
I
but
agree with
I
that.
know, right? I know. I mean, I don't know what
I
people
Man,
are.
know.
I'm
I
still
know.
a baby. My
Yeah,
hair
I
is
know. Right, right. But yeah, I was exactly in that boat because I said, okay, well, let me, in my mind, I was like, well, let me find something that is going to be, eventually revenue generating, so that when I'm not there, it's doing something, right? In my particular case, I think I'm the small percentage of people that just I got lucky. I got really lucky because I got the guidance along the way. But the majority of the people that are what you're talking about, the 10 to 15 years out, it's a disaster. It's a disaster because they just they see, oh, it has a payment scheme, it has this, and there's no one to guide them. So that's why I want them to be able to contact folks like you, and for you guys to hold them by the hand and say, okay, look, you're right. What is the purpose? What are you doing? What are you buying this for? Those are questions that I think, and I'm doing most of this program because it is geared towards English and Filipino market. But I think in my case, I think masyadong natutuwa. The excitement of buying the condo, and thinking, oh, I'm just gonna live. They think they're gonna live in the mall, because they're in the mall and they have all these wonderful things, and I'm one of the few that got lucky. So when you're picking something out, Peter, and let's just say, you're going home. Let's talk about provinces, okay? Real quick. Say they're going to whatever province they're going to go to, right? What are some of the provinces that you feel, they might gravitate towards? What are some of the projects that you feel like, some areas you feel like, wow, this is really gonna, in 10 to 15 years, this is really gonna pay off. This is really gonna be something. The resources, yung mga hospital, yung mga, things like that. How do you feel about that?
Yan, nagkakaiba yan sa purpose. If you are from, let's say, if you are from Cebu,
yes.
And I know for a fact that so many people who are planning to retire or people who are looking for investment, they would buy properties in Manila.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
And, well, okay, for the purpose of probably making more, but that's okay. But if you are from Cebu, it might be good to invest property in Cebu.
Right.
If you're
Okay.
looking for a property that would give you hopefully a rental income,
Right.
then uh, that's okay. But my advice consistently is that when you buy a condominium, you keep it for the next 5 years when it's turned over, and
Yes.
then sell it. Sell it so you get to sell it at a good price. Assuming that you're not using it, you could have it rented out. All right,
Right.
but if no one's gonna take care of that, then that's where the problem begins.
You're
All
right.
right.
I think,
Yes.
yeah, well,
If you
after
ask me,
everything,
okay, if you ask me, which cities or which provinces is most ideal to buy an investment, look at the nearest city of kung saan probinsya ka.
Okay.
Don't just
Yeah.
buy anywhere.
Right. 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 Um, in the ten, and then we'll talk about the latter. We'll talk about that 10 to 15 year, kind of outlook, and we'll also talk about that. Okay, well, I haven't done anything, so now I'm 64. So we'll talk about the 10 to 15. So somebody like me, I haven't bought anything. I haven't done anything, right? And say I'm from Batangas or Pampanga, let's just say, okay? But I have, but it's easier for me to get to Manila. Okay, you're right because everybody gravitates towards Manila
Yeah.
because the airport and everything else and infrastructure, hospitals, right? So that makes sense. So what should I be looking for when I'm looking? Let's just say I'm the typical, I'm 50 years old. My wife's the same age. My kids are almost out of, so we're at that stage. We have a 10-year time span, right?
Yeah.
So I'm in the Philippines. I'm in the market. I'm looking. What should I be looking for to make sure that my timeline of that 5 to 10 years is maximized? What should I be looking for?
Okay. Number one, you need to figure out. You are looking forward to going back to the Philippines. Where do you see yourself living? Where? Is it going to be in the city? Or
Right,
is it going to be in your province, somewhere near your province?
right,
Because
right.
if it is in the city, retiring in Metro Manila is just like living in the States. It's still like, it's an urban
Right.
place,
It's
right?
true. It's
So
true.
it's
Yes.
convenient, masaya, but on the other hand, your priorities changes 5 years, 10 years
Right,
after. When you
right,
become 60, you want something more. Gusto mo na lang magtanim,
more
gusto mo na
peaceful.
lamang yung
right.
mag-relax, maraming hangin, di ba?
Yeah.
So you have to figure that out kasi where do you imagine yourself living at? If you're gonna live in the province, it should be somewhere near your area. But do not live in a province right beside your relatives kasi doon
Agreed.
kumakaroon ng
Yes.
problema. Diba? Tama
Yes, I
yun.
agree. I agree. No, you're 150% right.
Yeah,
100.
you
Yes.
you bring home your 200,000 US dollars retirement money,
Right.
and then here comes your friend and relatives of saying like, you know what, I was thinking of a business, this might be good for you. Ang daming napaso dyan.
You're right. You're right.
And
Yes.
them would even think that prior to coming
Yes.
home, they were
Right.
already thinking of a business that would hit here.
Right.
Kasi that's what they learned in the US. But you
Yes.
must understand,
Yes.
before you put up a business here,
Yeah.
you need some time to study and check the market.
Absolutely, absolutely, yes. So in my particular case, let's just say I'm using myself as an example. So let's just say, I do have this timeline, right? And then of course you're right. Let's just say when I get to 60, I'm going to want something different. You're 100% about that. So would you recommend something like, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Enjoy that appreciation. Enjoy it. So let's just say I'm there, but I know that I'm not going to be in the Philippines too often in the next 5 years. But now I've bought this excellent opportunity, this pre-selling condo, right? And I bought correctly because I talked to someone like you guys and you showed me kind of where to buy and those type of things. So let's just say I'm 55 years old. It's been turned over. I'm making a little money off of it. At that point, are you suggesting, hey, use that as kind of a stepping point, you know, liquidate that, right? From what I understand, liquidate that. And then maybe at that point, you've gained from your investment and go find something that's going to be more suitable for your later years. Does that make sense?
That could be one of your
Yeah.
actually one of the things that you can do because zonal value of property increases over time. So there
Yes.
are areas that, for example, in BC, it increases after 5 years.
Right.
So I think BGC properties will be increasing this year,
Yes.
2022. And in
Right.
Tagaytay, zonal values increase every year.
Right.
So I think that's one of the questions that you should ask your realtor. I mean, how much? Because the increase in the zonal value of a property depends on the location and the development going around the location. So if we're looking at
You're right.
an ROI, it's something that you want to earn, you have to ask your realtor about that. So check,
Absolutely.
can you ask them how much is the increase of this particular property? How much am I going to earn from it?
Yeah.
And probably you can maximize the investment that you have put into that property. So
Yeah.
say you're coming home after like say 10 years. So then you can buy a property and it will increase in 5 years to earn from it. And you can probably buy something that is more to your, to your
It's
liking
true.
for a
It's
retirement
true.
stage. At the same time, you earn
Right.
already. So I
Right.
think those questions you can ask your realtor. Because that's one
Right.
very important. You're looking at something that did be earned from.
See, so I'm really happy you guys are touching upon these topics because you know what, this is what people need to hear. They need to sit
To
down
understand. Yes.
with someone like Peter and someone like you, and Peter needs to be asking those questions, those key questions that, okay, what is the purpose of you, actually, buying this? You want to buy something, but what is the purpose? What
is
what
the
are you trying
objective?
what are you trying to accomplish? I think that was never asked of me. I mean, no one asked me that. I wish they had. Like I said, I'm one of the lucky few. But I would have appreciated someone like Peter asking me that question, that direct question, because that's practical. That is a very practical question to ask somebody. What are you going to? Okay, now you're going to buy it. What are you going to do? Why? Why are you going to buy it?
Because basically,
Yes.
yeah, your objective will determine the kind of property that you will be buying. For example,
Yes.
your objective basically is to earn money from it. So
Yes.
then you will be selling it. So you will be talking about zonal value. You'll be
Yes.
talking about the value of the property and how much you're going
Right.
to be earning from it. Now,
Yes.
if you're looking at something that you will be making a business
Okay.
out of, then it should be, the location is very important. If you're going to be renting
I agree.
out,
I agree.
it has to be near schools, near commercial centers.
Right.
Now, if it's something that you're going to stay in, a retirement place, basically, it should be something
Yeah.
where your heart is. Like, for example, the provinces or something like
Right.
near the beach or something.
Right.
So it will differ. The properties that you will be investing in
Yeah.
will differ based on your objectives. But most of the time, it's not discussed by real estate brokers with the clients, with the buyers. So they're just shown a property and they're shown a beautiful property, a beautiful marketing brochure,
Yes,
and
they
they're
are.
lured into buying things. At the end of the day, it's not something that they
May
need.
not. Yeah, it may not be suitable. For
It may not
them.
be suitable.
You're absolutely right. So Peter, let me ask you a question. You talked about, and you mentioned a figure of $200,000. You actually, that's absolutely correct, because that's kind of what the average kind of money, the average retiree has when that's as far as liquid, assets when they're let's talk about that 64 person now. Say I'm 64 years old. Okay. I'm, this sounds cliche. Let's just say I'm a 64-year-old retiring nurse. Okay? Because this healthcare is where most of these people are going to come from. And they are tired. They are worn out. They've been doing it for 30 years. They want to go home, and they want to buy something so that when at 65, they can go home. They can enjoy. But a lot of them fall into this category where they do have that $200,000 that Peter mentioned, okay? And because they're so excited and they don't talk to anybody, that it's gone in the blink of an eye. They've spent it on something that they don't even know, is going to be good or bad or whatever, and they buy it cash because I don't want to deal with it. I don't want a bill. So Peter, should those people pay cash when they see a property? Is it wise for them to just go ahead and, hey, I have the cash. I don't want utang, right? Is it wise for them to do that, or is it better to take advantage of, the banking opportunities, the mortgage opportunities, and the interest rates that are currently being offered?
The thing there is that I experienced this.
Yes.
Many balikbayan, specifically in the US, they have the tendency they want to buy it in cash so they get a big discount.
Yes.
Pero the cash money that they get is out of refinancing their homes.
You're right. Yes.
Meaning, so when you refi your home, it means an extension of loans plus additional interest.
You're right.
Okay. So what happens next is that you really get to enjoy well, simple lang naman yun eh, di ba? If you pay zero interest in the Philippines, in the end, I suggest that the balance, or let's say if you bought a property in the Philippines, it's like 5 years to pay zero interest. Okay, you take the 5 years to pay zero interest to buy time, and the remaining balance you should not borrow in the Philippines. You could borrow it. That's the time when you do your refi in the US, so that you could write it off from your tax, right?
That's right.
Right. So, however, it means to say also that extending more of your time to stay in the US, so your chances of going back to the Philippines and do that dream retirement home, may have to be stretched.
You're gonna be much in better financial situation. You're putting yourself in better financial situation. You're right, Peter, because you know what? The tendency, and I think this comes from the Filipino culture itself, right? No one wants utang. They just think about, let me just pay it off, right? Which I believe there's really nothing wrong with that in the grand scheme of things. However, Peter, you bring up a very good point. If someone is offering you free money, and in essence it is, this payment scheme, if you do it right, right, and if you focus on the fact that, okay, well, there is an end to this. Okay, this is from here to here. It's 3 years or 5 years. And then at the end of that, then that's where you would prepare. Let's just say your balloon payment is $2 million or $3 million. At that point, you've got 5 years to put that together.
Yeah.
Okay, you got 5 years to put that. It's buying you time. Yeah, because basically, like in my case, okay, in my particular case, my payment scheme was 3 years. Okay, when I bought the property, I thought that was quite reasonable. Okay, and because I come from the financial world, I understood that I could buy myself time, right? So I did do that, exactly what you have suggested, and so whatever it was that was left, I basically had a little bit less than a car payment. It was like less than, I think it was about $250 a month, something affordable. It was something affordable, I remember. And then at the end of that, I knew, okay, you got to come up with this money, after 3 years. And so it did buy me time. Now, you brought up an incredible point, because you're right. The tendency of most Filipinos, okay, is may bahay ako dito. I have been, paying this mortgage and I have this equity. Utangin ko na lang. Let's get that refinance, and I'm going to come home with a wad of cash and get this discount.
Yeah.
Right? That's the tendency. That's the tendency. But that's why. That's why people need to sit down with someone like you guys.
If you're looking at like 10, 15 years plan retiring in the Philippines, and you are buying a property that's 5 years to pay, my suggestion, as much as possible, is to, if you could afford the monthly payment, let's say where you're paying $500, and then if you could save another $500 or The smallest monthly payment, the better for you.
Right.
And then the remaining money, if you, let's say for example, if disposable income monthly is like 1,500,
Yes.
and then you buy a property that's requiring you to pay $500, then if you could save the $1,000 a month in preparation for the turnover
Right.
balance,
You're right.
that will be very ideal. So you don't pull out. Number one, you don't have to refi your house. You don't have
right.
to touch your 401k or your
You're
IRA.
right. You're right. You're right.
Oo. Kasi once, di ba, remember the Filipinos there, what happens is that sometimes, I know some Filipinos,
Yes.
just to be able to come home and be the bida, di ba, they refund their money and put all the money and pagdating dito, big time. Di ba?
Yes.
And then pagdating doon, balik sa trabaho. And I
Yes.
don't like to see that. I mean,
I
the
know.
best way to plan your retirement basically is to, at least if you could afford the lowest monthly payment, and
Yes.
save for the lump sum balance, so that you don't touch you don't touch your all your savings there. Because number one, when you retire, there are so many things to consider. Number one, you need to get as much cash when you go back here.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So you have to consider all the relocations. You need to plan that. And then
Yes.
when you decide to come home, you also have to consider the consequences. Diba?
Absolutely right.
The consequence ng decision ko kamera ako dito. Because you were living in the dream of like, you know what, it's a good retirement to be with friends and all that. But ano yung consequences nun? Diba? In terms of health, in terms of social reasons, you be feeling like you're comfortable, you're finally back home. Diba? You have to consider also the medical consequences, the tax consequences. And if you want to retire here, you need to diversify investments. 10 years or 15 years before that, you need to buy a property. Like if you buy a condominium, dapat yung 10 years before your retirement, diba? Keep it for 5 years, and you could have this the same scheme, diba? Pay the smallest amount, and when it's turned over, okay, you either you enjoy the rental income or you flip it, you sell it, and buy another reselling property at a high price.
Awesome. So
you dress it up.
yeah. So
kapag na-turn over yan, then tawagin mo na si Suzette. Suzette, I need you to fix my property.
That's right.
And do the interiors, make it look nice, Instagrammable, so I could have it rented out. Alam mo naman sa Pilipinas, Instagrammable eh.
Oh,
And
yes,
Suzette,
that's right. That's right. That's right. And you know, and let's talk about that real quick, Suzette. Real quick. I mean, Peter brings up another fantastic point. You know, so many OFWs and balikbayans. You know, once they do have a property that's turned over, and you know, and they don't think about like, what am I gonna, you know, I want to rent it, but they don't think about. Listen, you know, people from all over the world, their tastes have changed dramatically, especially during, you know. And the way they travel, the way they look at things, everything is about aesthetics. Everything is about aesthetics, right? And you know, and I this boggles my mind. It really does boggle my mind. But I see this so often. When you look at Airbnb and you see all these different properties, you know, you have this beautiful, you know, condo you spent $5 million on, and this beautiful location, and then the furniture looks like it's from Ace Hardware or IKEA. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. You know, you're gonna get the beautiful property, and you don't do anything to it to raise the profile of the property, so that, you know, people are interested in renting it, so that you can make the best of your investment. You know, thank God I had Suzette. Thank God I had Suzette, because you know what? This is what I asked her to do. I said, Suzette, you know, I can't even go to the Philippines. I don't even have time. This was the height of COVID that I asked her to do this. You know. I said, I need you to just turn it into a place where, and I want you to just mirror. I want you to mirror the hotel, the boutique hotel in Tagaytay. Just mirror the room. I want that same color scheme. I want it to look like a hotel room. And oh my gosh, she did. Just absolute incredible looking. I mean, you took a can of tuna and made it look like caviar. I mean, seriously, it was so beautiful. This is what I am encouraging the viewers. You know, these two people that we have, are experts in their field. 60 years of combined experience. You guys need to talk to people like these two people that we're talking about today, because it will save you so much heartache.
A lot of money
Lots of money and lots of money.
and pain.
Yes,
And heartache.
absolutely, absolutely. So let's go into a couple of different things here. Okay, boy, Peter, you're going to love this. You know all about this, Peter. And I know on the other side, you have experienced some different things. Let's talk about service after the sale. Oh boy, this is my favorite. My favorite. Okay, so Peter, I'm gonna go to you first. Say, okay, I've now paid for my condo, right? I paid for it, and then suddenly, there's no one. There's no one around. No one I can call. Let's talk about that. Why does that happen? Like what? what?
Let me
The agent
tell you
disappeared.
something.
Right,
Okay.
right.
There are two parties here. The
Yes.
first part are the sales agents who go to your country to sell.
Yeah,
Yes.
yes.
Like I used to lead like 30 people deploying to different cities.
Yes.
All right.
Right,
Okay.
right.
And then the other part is the immigrant, the Filipinos, very eager to buy something and invest something in the Philippines.
Right.
All right. So the first part is when sales agents are sent abroad, they are beautiful people, very charismatic, and they know what the Filipinos need in the Philippines.
Yes.
But the job is to go there and sell.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And sell.
They have a
meaning to
quota.
say that
They have a quota, of course. Yes.
right? So a quota, they represent the project, and the most important thing, they get to sell.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
The other part, the Filipinos there are very eager to talk to someone. And one thing is, they like talking to Filipinos coming from the Philippines kasi they want fresh news, fresh ideas, they want information. They're very eager.
Right. Yes, you're right. Yes.
That's where the danger is, because they're very easy to convince.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
So, and when you talk to an agent who's very eager to sell and you are very eager to buy, that's where the meeting of the magic
That's where magic comes.
That's where the magic comes. And then suddenly, okay.
Yes.
So assuming that the retiree or the film guy decided to buy had signed up. All right?
Yeah.
So, okay na gente, nakakota na siya, nakabenta na siya. Then they move to another country or another city.
Yes.
And sometimes doon nagkakaroon ng problema kasi syempre, what comes with buying, that is a big decision. What comes with buying is a responsibility. So you are left with the responsibility.
Right.
It comes with responsibility and consequences. So what are the responsibilities? You want to make sure that you get to meet the monthly payment that you signed up with.
Yes.
Okay? Then second, you want to make sure that the property that you bought is at the right location where you are, kasi ito yung dapat mo malaman, your responsibility is first, before you buy, you need to know where is the location. Ito bang property binili ko, matagal na ba itong nag-i-exist? Ba't ako bumili ng lumang property? Ito bang property na binili ko, puro mga taga-US ang bumili, taga-OFWs ang bumili, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Right?
Exactly.
And then number 5 is, when I buy, who will take care of my property?
That's right.
When it's turned over, probably I would, if you have a Suzette to fix your unit, make sure you get it done right away.
Exactly.
And then Suzette probably will consider leasing it out. Diba? Importante kasi, kahit na maganda ang property mo, if it's not rented out,
wala silang makakuha.
Exactly. Right.
From the Philippines.
Yes.
Yeah. So what happens is, if you make it very, very expensive because you like beautiful things and you leave it there, it's a bad
Yeah.
investment. But
Yeah,
you would
that's
end up paying in the bank.
Yes,
Diba?
yes,
Only
you're right.
that.
You're
The
right.
responsibility is to pay the bank for the lump sum payment, and number two, you have to pay the association dues.
That's right. That's right.
Right?
But in
And then,
reality,
Oh,
actually, there
thank you.
is
Yes,
no
thank you for bringing
contact
that up.
person.
Yes, because
yeah,
me myself, I'm also guilty of that. I said, oh my gosh, that's right. There's association dues. It's not that I didn't read the fine print. It's just you just don't think about it. You know,
you were just
Exactly.
excited.
Yes, yes.
You
you
just
know,
feel happy
it's
about
like
it.
what the,
Correct.
right, exactly. Which so the moral of the story to all the viewers out there is, however nice the property is, however great reputation the builder is or the developer, the main thing that everyone has to keep in mind, and you just hit it, is you yourself are responsible to be informed. You have to
Check.
be informed,
Due diligence.
because if you are not informed and you don't talk to someone like Peter or like Suzette and have a really, really intelligent conversation about how, what you're going to do, why you're going to do this, you are going to have a really hard time. Because you're right. Ultimately, once they sell it to you, you're it. You are responsible for your property. You have to find a way to make it work. You're absolutely right. Yes.
In reality, there is no one contact person they can
Right.
actually go to
Yes.
when they already purchased the property. So there has to be some group that will help them out
Right.
so they can get to the everything basically. I'd like to talk about
Yeah.
the consideration. I'd like to talk about the unit itself. We've been talking about what are the considerations before you actually purchase it. But as a designer, as a contractor, I'd like to share this with our kababayan, the
Yes.
things that
Yes.
they need to consider when they've already acquired the property. What are the
Yes.
things that they have to look for so that they'll be happy with everything, with whatever that they purchase.
Yes.
As we've said before, ang objective, why you would want to buy the property is very important. Sabi natin kanina, if you want to sell it, if you want to rent it out, or if you want to stay in it, or something that you probably come home to in the near future. Importante yun. You have to establish that so you can choose wisely what is the location of the property you'll be buying. Importante yun. Nakadepende yun sa objective mo kung bakit gusto mo mag-purchase ng property. Tapos let's go to the property itself. Kasi maraming cases na I've done properties I've renovated properties for a lot of people, and hindi nila alam binili nila. They don't know what they
You're
purchased,
right.
and then suddenly problems come, dumadating na madaming problema, mas maraming gastos because they didn't check on the property, they didn't know what to look for when they actually choose the property. So sabi ko nga sa kapaulit-ulit ko sinasabi sa mga clients ko, when you purchase the property, number one, if it's something that you want to stay in, you have to check the layout. Kasi maraming cases the layout will basically, the layout of the, pinapakita naman yun actually ng mga agent. Kaya lang sometimes, you don't actually look at it. Tinitingnan mo lang yung magandang brochure ng building and then whatever amenities it has. Pero yung layout is always, something that you don't really think about.
You're right.
But the problem
Yes.
comes here where, for example, you're somebody who loves to cook. Naturally, you should be looking for a unit who has a layout which has a bigger space for kitchen, diba? Now, if you're somebody who wants to entertain guests, then you should be looking for a layout na malaki yung space to live into. Kasi problema ko yun eh. For example, dumating na sa renovation, they ask me
Right.
and then they see their unit and they tell me, let's make my kitchen bigger.
Right.
Thing is, they have purchased a unit which is a smaller, provision for a kitchen.
Yes.
And closed pa by walls.
You're
Remember,
right. You're right.
kitchens and bathrooms have plumbing, piping, and wiring, in the wall. So we cannot just move them around. Although it is not impossible, it is very costly. So sometimes dito pumapasok dagdag na gastos. Kasi hindi mo iniisip na may mga bagay na mahirap gawin. Maaring pwedeng gawin,
Yes.
pero mas pagastos. Hindi
Yes.
ito dinidiscuss ng mga agents. You know, how the layout works and how it will fit your lifestyle and your objective for that particular.
Right. Right.
So that's number one. Number two, you have to check the developer's track record pagdating sa pag-submit ng mga finishes. When I say finishes, I mean the tiling, the painting, the cladding, all. Kasi there are cases, again, that after the unit has been renovated, that they both ready, all the in, and then suddenly, a couple of weeks after, there's bubbles on the walls, there's stain on the walls. When there's
Yes.
bubbles and stains on the walls, that means moisture. So there must be a leak somewhere. But then, siyempre, there's no way of finding that out. Kasi when you go, when they turn it over to you, maayos naman, bago ka. So it's important to check the reviews. Because, di ba, ngayon,
Yes.
gusto na yung reviews eh. When they talk about
You're right.
what they bought, they tell you about the faulty units that been turned over to them. So it will help to research. Sabi nga ni Peter, it's our responsibility. It's really important that you
Right.
have, hindi kayo madala ng ganda, ng ahente na
Yes.
nagbibenta sa inyo.
That's right.
Pag nasilaw na kayo sa ganda, you don't look at the thing that you're actually, buying. And it gives you
You're
a
right.
lot of
You're right.
sakit ng ulo pakatapos when it's turned
Right.
over to you. So that's important. Check out the developer. Check out the track record of the developer. Mga sinasubmit nila sa inyo na mga faults na yan na.
Yes.
And number three, check the number of units per floor as against the number of elevators.
Good point.
Hindi naman
Yes.
nadi-discuss yun, di ba?
Yeah.
But then, when you're actually in the unit, that's when you realize, that spells the difference between comfortable and not comfortable. Kasi kung traffic, hindi ka makaakyat. So
You're
not
right.
only the number of elevators is against the number of units in the floor,
Yeah.
but also the sizes of the elevator. Or if there's a provision for a service elevator. Naranasan ko na yon na nag-renovate kami ng mga units. Hindi makadaan yung furniture, yung plywood, hindi kasha. Because there's no elevator for that. And usually these things hindi na discuss.
Right.
But
Right.
then if you want to transform your unit into something that could, earn you money, a rental, a vacation rental, a short-term rental, and you want that to happen, it's so difficult. I mean, how are you going to do that? Just put in a little, small tables and chairs just for it to have something in. So these things are very, very important. And also the fourth one that I like for our kababayan to understand is to check the health emergency provision.
Oh
Exits.
yes. Yeah.
Kasi I've worked with a condominium na medyo hindi nakikita yung kanilang emergency exit. And when there are people around, emergency exit, ventilation. Ang ganda-ganda ng condominium. And then suddenly you can smell the fish cooking. The chicken. Those
Yes.
things can make you, malaking bagay, especially for a property that you worked so hard for.
Yeah.
And then coming back home, coming back in the Philippines, and then, not
Absolutely.
feeling good about
Yeah.
those things.
Yeah.
Yun lang those are my really, I think,
Mm-hmm.
all our kababayan should understand, to be particular about.
Also
Got
to
it.
manage
Got it.
expectations. So
Yeah.
when you
Yeah,
buy
you're
a
right.
property, when you manage to manage expectation, when you buy a property worth 3 million to 5 million, expect it's a small unit. All right, don't expect like a big one. They look good in picture, like lavish,
You're right.
lobby, and swimming pool. So what? Lahat pa ng kasi you need... Hello?
Yeah, hello.
Okay. So you need to manage the expectation in the sense that
Okay.
Yes.
if you bought a property worth 3 million to 5 million, these are small units. So when you rent a small unit, it means to say that you also need to expect that is 30,000.
Yes.
Correct.
Yes. Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
important
Yes.
also.
30,000 is it enough to pay your mortgage para maging self-sustaining siya. Pero walang mapupunta sa iyo.
This is
Ah,
true.
it-
This is true.
Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so is it self-sustaining? Okay, self-sustaining, it can pay by itself, like 10,
Yes.
10, 15 years to pay.
Right.
Pero anong napunta sa iyo?
You're right.
Nasabi lang yung
You're right.
property, but there's really no return.
Yes. You're right.
Sorry.
You're
It's
right.
just, so, and then unless you sell it again, just like what I said, if you intend to sell your property, sell it within a 5-year term and then flip it, buy
Right.
another property.
Right.
That's pre-selling, right?
Makes sense.
Otherwise,
Makes sense.
parang niloloko mo lang sarili mo. Sometimes,
Got it.
I just like in the States, diba? There's so many brokers who would buy like 5 houses, 10 houses, but they pay how much? And in the end, diba, the chance is to flip it so that you'll be able to get the
You're right.
return, but you still have to pay
Absolutely.
your mortgage.
Yeah.
Same thing dito. When you start buying 2, 3, 5 condominiums and they're not moving, you start paying the monthly, your loans, and then the association dues, and then the caretaker, the maintenance of the unit, patay na.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Oh.
Um,
So, and
yes.
going back to your question again, like when you buy a property, you want to plan your retirement. It's good to buy a property when you're looking at a span of like 7 to 8 years. So you still have to flip it and sell it and buy another one.
Beautiful.
Or the amount of money that you make out of the property that you
Yeah.
bought is good enough to build you a house.
Another.
Diba?
Makes sense. Makes
Just-
sense.
Oo,
Absolutely.
just ang medyo nakaka-worry lang kasi many of those that's hoping that Airbnb will give them so much money. Eh paano kung ganun lahat ang purpose ng mga nakatira doon?
Yes,
Diba?
exactly.
Di agawan
Exactly.
kayo. Then
Right.
that downgrades, that decreases the potentials of your property.
You're right.
So maraming
You're right.
consideration. As I've
You're
said,
right.
it's
You're right.
a personal responsibility. You have to take the repercussions, and then your plans should be clear. Your objectives should be clear: when to
Objectives
sell
should
it,
be clear.
when to keep it. Yes.
Absolutely.
So don't just buy. Or don't
That's
just
right.
buy.
You got to, yeah,
Buy.
yeah. You got to put some thought into it. Yes. You know, our time is actually almost up, but you guys, listen. This is a conversation that I'm going to have you guys back on another episode. But listen, first and foremost, Peter, Suzette, I really, really want to thank you. Really, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Really, you know, our purpose on this show, I Love Seniors, is just that: to make sure that they have the right information and the guidance when it comes to these. This is a very, very important thing. Great topic that we talked about today. And ladies and gentlemen, again, I want to highlight our very special guest, Mr. Peter Data. Thank you so much for being with us. You will be with us again. And my beautiful co-host, Miss Suzette Carlos. Thank you, my dear, for always being so beautiful and so gracious. And we will have you back on the show soon. Okay. And that
Thank
being
you very
said,
much.
thank you guys very much. That being said, this is Richard Aguila, and I Love Seniors. And we'll see you next time. Thank you so much.